All right, let's talk about weather forecasts. You and I, we rely on them every single day. But what if the very systems we trust have a huge blind spot, especially when the biggest storms are heading our way? Today, we're diving into some fascinating new research that's trying to fix that exact problem.
So why does this happen? You've probably thought about it yourself. After a big hurricane or a flood, you hear people say it was so much worse than they predicted. Why do our forecasts, which are usually so good, sometimes completely miss the mark on the storms that do the most damage? Well, the answer gets to a really fundamental challenge in the science of prediction.
To really get a handle on this, we've got to peek behind the curtain at the forecasting systems we've been using for years and find out where they're going wrong.
Okay, so for more than 10 years, the main tool has been this system called MEFP. And look, for your average run-of-the-mill rainy Tuesday, it's pretty good. The trouble is, it has what scientists call a conditional bias. Basically, that just means that while it's fine for normal weather, under the specific conditions that create monster storms, it consistently and dangerously lowballs the threat.
And here's the thing that's kind of wild. This isn't some bug or a simple mistake in the code. It's actually baked right into the design, and it puts forecasters in a really tough spot.
You can think of it like this: the smoke detector problem. We've all been there, right? You've got the type 1 error, a false alarm. Your smoke detector goes off just because you burned some toast. It's annoying for sure, but nobody gets hurt. But then you have the type 2 error, a missed event. That's when your house is actually on fire and the detector is completely silent. And that's a catastrophe.
And that's the heart of the problem, really. Our current models have been built to be incredibly cautious. They are so terrified of crying wolf, setting off that false alarm, that they end up creating this huge, dangerous blind spot. They sometimes completely fail to warn us about the real fire, the most destructive storms. It's a system that prioritizes not being wrong over being right when it truly matters.
So that's the problem. But what's the fix? Well, it's all about looking at risk in a smarter way. Scientists are essentially recalibrating the system, teaching it to be a little less afraid of the burnt toast so it never misses the real fire.
So, say hello to something called conditional bias penalized regression. Yeah, it's a mouthful. Let's just call it CBPR. Researchers at the University of Texas at Arlington came up with it, and you can basically think of it as a super smart software upgrade for that weather smoke detector we were talking about. It's designed to make the model hypersensitive to the ingredients of a monster storm, and it makes a very calculated trade. It'll accept a few more false alarms to make absolutely sure it doesn't miss a catastrophe.
So how does this thing actually work? It's pretty elegant, really. It boils down to 3 simple steps. First, the model looks back through history and identifies exactly when and where the old system tended to get it wrong. That's the bias. Second, it applies a clever statistical fix, a penalty, that basically forces the model to pay way more attention when those specific conditions pop up. And voila, you get a new, much smarter forecast that's way less likely to miss a major storm.
Right, so a new model sounds great in theory, but you gotta ask, does it actually work in the real world? And the way they tested this is honestly super clever.
What they did is something called hindcasting. So instead of trying to predict the future, they went back in time. They took the new CBPR model and fed it 20 years of old weather data, from the year 2000 all the way to 2019, just to see if it would have done a better job predicting the huge storms we've already been through. It's kind of like giving the new model a pop quiz on some of the worst weather in recent history.
And believe me, they threw everything they had at it. We're talking 2 decades of data, covering 82 different places across the U.S. and some of the biggest storms in recent memory. Tropical Storm Allison, Hurricane Irene, and of course, those monster storms from 2017, Harvey and Irma. This was a trial by fire, pitting the new model against some of the most difficult weather we've ever seen.
So after putting the model through this historical gauntlet, what were the results? Well, they weren't just good. They were a total game changer.
Okay, check this out. For those super critical short-term warnings, the 1 to 2 day forecast that people rely on to evacuate, the new model was over 20% more accurate. I mean, in meteorology, an improvement that big is huge. It's a massive leap forward, especially when every hour counts.
And it gets better. That advantage, it held up for predicting daily rain up to 10 days out. Just think about what that means. A 10-day heads up gives cities, states, and all of us so much more time to prepare for a potential disaster.
And then, for predicting what happens after the rain falls, like river flooding, the model's accuracy was still better 2 full weeks out, 14 days. That is a complete game changer for managing dams, reservoirs, and protecting towns downstream from devastating floods.
But this is the most important part. This is the whole ballgame. The model got better at predicting all kinds of rain, but where did it improve the most? On the biggest, most extreme, most dangerous storms. It zeroed in on the exact problem it was built to solve, and it nailed it.
So this is all really exciting stuff for scientists, for sure. But what does it actually mean for the rest of us, in the real world?
The whole idea behind this new approach is summed up perfectly in the research paper itself. It's about, quote, accepting to a tolerable degree slightly deteriorated false positives in favor of greatly reduced false negatives. In other words, yeah, you might get a few more burnt toast alarms, but you're going to catch every single real fire.
And when you think about it, the ripple effects are huge. We're talking about more trustworthy flood warnings, which gives people precious time to get out of harm's way. It means emergency crews can plan better. It helps us manage our water systems, like reservoirs and dams, more effectively. We can even design safer bridges and roads. When you add it all up, it's about one thing: saving lives and protecting property.
So this breakthrough is amazing for weather, but it leaves you with a bigger question, doesn't it? The whole idea is about being smarter with risk, about being willing to accept a small mistake to avoid a catastrophic one. And it makes you wonder, where else could we apply that kind of thinking to solve some of our other huge problems? Something to think about. Thanks for joining us.